Notice there's something right here. And hopefully this concrete is sturdy and holds, because it's a good drop down to the bottom. Finally reached our second target. Today's mission is to locate and document one, possibly two pieces of railroad history. We're heading to the first one now. If you'd like to check them out with me, you know what to do. Just come along with me. After following this trail for a little bit of time, I believe we came upon our first location. And it's going to be a little bit tricky to get to, but if you look down there, you can probably see it. That is an old switching tower. Let's make our way down there and check it out. Just a quick update, making some progress. This is not an easy descent. Not only is it really steep, but as you can see, it's snow covered. A lot of things you can't see. Leaves underneath the snow make it really slippery, but we are making progress. We are inching ever so closer. Currently just sitting behind it. I wanted to share something rather humorous with you. I've filmed numerous of these switching towers before. Most recent one was in 2024. And the one difficulty I've always ran into is gaining access to the second level where the levers would have been. Namely because the spiral staircase is always removed and there's no access from the outside unless you were to bring a ladder. So the alternatives is to either bring a ladder, bring a drone, or bring something really long that could reach upstairs to the second level. And that's what I did. So I brought my 7-foot action camera pole to gain access upstairs. Well, turns out I don't need this because this particular tower, which is right here in front of me, is built into an embankment. So I could literally walk right to the second level, look right in. So came over prepared. We don't need this, but we'll definitely be able to get a look at the upstairs. Notice there's something right here. I think this is the remnants of an outhouse. It's a square wooden shape. There's a pit beneath it. This might be the first time I've come across a switching tower that had an outhouse behind it. I always thought they maybe used like a bucket inside or some type of portable container, but I believe we are looking at the remnants of an old switching tower outhouse right here. Yeah, I'd say this is much easier than having to climb or use my 7-foot pole. Seeing the chimney sticking out, which would have went right through that column right there, right down to the, I believe, the basement. Roof is heavily covered in debris. A lot of fallen trees on it. Moss and nature's carpet, and even some ferns growing up there. Roof is not going anywhere though, as this is entirely made out of concrete. But the roof did have some type of shingling though, which I believe are like little curved tiles. I don't know if they would have been ceramic or porcelain or some other material, but I could see remnants of it right up there on the corner of it hanging out, which I've seen on other towers as well. Do have some interesting artwork here. Looks like Abraham Lincoln right there. This one, I'm not sure who it is. If you could decipher who that is, leave a comment down below. Standing next to the back wall, you can see the roof does overhang quite a bit And that is the proximity of the supposed outhouse. Now, since we are documenting pieces of railroad history today, I am wearing one of my favorite hoodies, my blue Conrail, which is the color and company that got me interested in railroading back when I was a little kid. And people often ask in my videos, where have I purchased this from? Well, there's two areas I know you could get it for certain. That is either the Railroaders Memorial Museum in Altoona, Pennsylvania, or its sister location of Horseshoe Curve. Both gift shops carry these hoodies, but I'm sure you can find them online on either Amazon or eBay as well. But definitely very fitting for what we're checking out today. Now, before we continue with exploring this structure, I do want to take just a moment to share with you a brief photo montage of some photos I obtained showing the innards and outwards of a switching tower. Not this particular one, but just generalized photos to give you an idea what it would have looked like on the inside and in front on the outside. That'll give you a good before to the modern day after. Pieces of the roof shingles right here. It says Chicago right on the inside there. First things first, I noticed there's an opening up here going up to what I'm guessing is like an attic or a crawl space. So maybe I didn't bring this for nothing. This is 7 feet long, should be tall enough to reach up inside of there to give you a look. And I'm hoping the concrete I'm standing on is strong because it doesn't look all that thick and it's a good drop down to the bottom. It would definitely hurt. So I'm gonna just walk cautiously. Let's get the camera recording. Okay, so there's a rectangle opening and I can see a wall and another opening going that direction. So I'll try to show you that. It's like a little, maybe storage spot. So I'm facing that way away from the opening. I didn't even know it. There was maintenance away sitting down there on a high railer. And they just moved ahead. All right, so now to the opening, trying to show the inside. So that's what's up there. You guys saw it before me. I'm gonna watch it back and get an idea. Yeah, I didn't even know there's a high railer sitting down there. Yeah, I'm guessing that's maybe just in case they had to get up there for maintenance or something like that. There is what looks to be possibly, there's something sticking out of the ceiling here. Looks like maybe, looks like a pipe or a valve, but I don't think they would have had water here. I could be mistaken. That looks like a light fixture, or at least something to hang a light. Could have been even candle, but with the operation of this, which I'm going to share the dates with you, I don't think it had really modern amenities, so to speak. But based on what I show you guys, if you know otherwise, by all means, let me know down below. I guess we're going to be doing things the opposite way. We're starting at the very top, working our way down. So we saw the section above the ceiling here. going to briefly show you that, what I believe is like a pipe or a valve coming out of the ceiling there. Has like a little knob on the end. I know it's really hard to tell on camera. And then there is a fixture with a hook on it, which I gotta watch where I walk here. May have been electrical. Can't see any wires from here. So this is a view we often see from the bottom, except this one has a metal I-beam going right through the middle, which I haven't seen at other locations. A lot of holes up here, which would be for the linkages of the levers. And I always confuse it, but it's either called Armstrong levers or strong arm levers. But I think they're Armstrong. So those go right down to the first floor, and I believe they will continue down to the outside, which we'll get confirmation of that once we're down there. Not a ton of room up here. Definitely more room towards the front. You can probably tell as I make my way over that the front window section is pushed out. So it extends out so that the operator up here can get a better view of the oncoming traffic. Definitely a nice view. And of course, this area is completely grown in since the operational days. A lot of this tree growth and forest wasn't here. Would have been a clear view straight down. There's looking down to the ground there. Type of retention wall there. Some more holes in the corner, some bigger than others. That one had a pipe because the pipe is still there, just up there. But that's not the chimney though, so I don't know what that is. Little box right here, which looks like it may have had maybe wires coming through. It looks like openings, like conduit openings. So possibly electric. That may have even been trying to think if it would have been a heater, but I don't think so because they would have had the coal stove downstairs. But it could have been an upstairs heat source. I can't rule it out. The corner here almost looks like a little electrical box. Looks like more so for a fire extinguisher. Would have been mounted right there. There's the opening. There is something up there. Looks like a pail laying on its side. This would have been the stairwell, spiral staircase coming up. So that would have been the inside access. And then looking from here, downstairs is really filled up with debris. The last one I checked out was, for the most part, pretty clean and clear, bare concrete, but that is loaded with garbage. Definitely a party spot. There's a fire that was burned right there by my backpack. A lot of graffiti, of course. But as we've seen with others, these are still holding up quite well, not going anywhere anytime soon on their own. Very similar to what I've documented recently too is Concrete City in Nanticoke, Pennsylvania. The 20 duplex buildings made entirely out of concrete, which are only deteriorating by man. Some of them are sinking into the ground, but they're built incredibly strong and well, and they're holding up for so many decades, standing the test of time. So I think we covered everything that we can up here. You already saw the before pictures, so you have an idea what was up here, the levers, maybe a switchboard showing you which lines were being activated or switched to. But other than that, just some framing, some wood right here. Looks like the old original wood. More wood, some bracketing. But this is definitely the first switching tower that I've explored that actually has natural upstairs access. Made it really nice and easy to walk right down past the outhouse and just climb right into it. So I'm glad I was able to show you the upstairs finally. One way or the other I was going to do it, whether it was from downstairs or being up here myself. But now that that's accomplished, let's head downstairs. Down here, now in a little vestibule area, if you want to call it that. Retention wall on this side, which has seen better days. It is completely fractured. You can also see the thickness of the concrete. It's about 1.5, 2 feet thick. And as we come down here to the entryway, we are greeted once again with another type of awning right there, which we've seen on the other ones. Curved doorway there. And it's partially buried, but there is indeed a date right there, which it's going to maybe correspond with the information I'm going to share with you on the inside. It looks like 1919 or 1915. I can't really make it out. And the ground is frozen solid. Otherwise, I'd try to dig away at it. But I do have some information I'm going to share with you about some of the dates and history and the uses of this tower. Now, the one thing I'm thinking of ahead of time, which may or may not be different for this location, is there's always a basement to these. The last one I explored, I was able to go around back, walk right into the basement, multiple rooms down there where the coal stove would have been, a little storage room for coal. I don't know if there's that here. I do see a crawl space going down to the basement, which looks like it may be filled up with debris. This may not have a full basement like the other one, so this could be unique in its own aspect that it doesn't have the traditional layout. But we'll confirm that as we explore the rest of it. But let me head inside, give a preliminary look, and then I'll bring you aboard as well. So here is your first look. Staircase would have been right here in the corner. Now, something I'm noticing that may confirm my doubts earlier, that does look like a light switch. This may have had electricity. Absolutely love the arched doorway here, which nearly all of them have. Another type of, this looks like a more traditional breaker box here, or electrical box. Well, it actually wouldn't be breakers, it'd be fuses. You can see where the door would have been mounted. Yeah, there's holes up there. Let me see if I could, yeah, it looks like conduit holes, electrical wires. So yeah, I think this is a location that definitely had electricity. There's all the holes that we saw from the upstairs. Here's that beam system. It's resting there on the little notch. That's not for structural support that I'm aware of because it doesn't connect to the top. It's not a load-bearing beam. It's just holding itself up with those two notches. So I'm guessing maybe something would have been mounted to the top of it through the opening there. Not really familiar with that. Now on the bottom though, all those holes is for all the linkages and armature to head outside to basically match up with the levers upstairs to switch the different switches. I don't think all of them would have been used because from what I've learned, this wasn't used for a lot of rails. It had a more specific primary use. Now here's the basement, or lack thereof. It is literally just a little crawl space, and you can't even really go anywhere unless you were to army crawl, which I'm not really looking to do that because it's just filled up with dirt. And as I mentioned from upstairs, downstairs here is littered with debris, garbage, everything of the sorts. You could barely see the concrete floor, but there is indeed a concrete floor here. But we have, looks like some preparation for a fire, a big tie right there, curvature of a pipe, rolled up carpet, solo cups, some buckets, beer cans, and everything else. Here's another section of the roof. So this one says, can't read the top, it says Imperial Tile, and this one, yeah, it does say Chicago. So it's like Chicago Imperial Tile. So that is what is on the roof and is now covered in nature itself. Right in the corner here would be the coal burning stove for heat and probably for cooking. Looks like the pipe would have connected right there, and that goes up right into the chimney that comes out the top. So it's built into the corner of the building here. Usually the other buildings too, if we don't end up confirming there's a basement, has another opening in the basement too. So it would have been possibly 2 coal stoves. Just see some nails coming out of the wall there, square nails. And I've said it before, I'll say it again, these windows always remind me of a small church. Just imagine they were filled with stained glass windows. And the other idea I mentioned too, which a lot of people said they would definitely be on board with, is having this be a small dwelling, a small home. Certainly big enough. Downstairs here could be the kitchen and living room. Put a spiral staircase in. Upstairs could be your bedroom. That would be a really neat small home. Of course, you'd have to work on insulation as concrete as a poor insulator. Moisture does kind of get trapped in here, mold forms, and hard to keep warm, but with modern amenities, that could certainly be overcome. And looks like a Target. That's a unique one, Sunoco gas station shooting target. Oh, pretty big windows in here, and another, looks like electrical box, big conduit pipe protruding through the wall. It's actually full of frost and some snow. But I do have some information that I'd like to share with you about this particular switching tower, and I do want to link a video down below, which was very helpful in obtaining some of the information. There's a gentleman who has basically been documenting the Lackawanna Cut-off, and this location is part of that. So his video definitely gave some good insight as to the dates and use of this specific tower. So now we saw the date outside. I was uncertain if it was 1919 or 1915. This was built in 1915, so that's definitely 1915, which is around the same time as the Lackawanna Cut-off. Now, once I do share the facts about this particular structure and building, I will give you just a brief back history on the cutoff as to why it's significant. This was primarily used to access of a spur line off of the main line. So the main line's right out here, as we saw, and there was a spur line further down a few hundred yards that would have curved off towards the right. It's no longer there. I don't think there's anything even left of it. But that was the primary use of this building, is for accessing that spur that serviced some either businesses or industries off that spur line. This particular building was put out of service in 1941 when the spur line was put out of service. So when the spur line shut down, this building no longer had a use for anything else. The main line was already here, and there was no other rails connecting to it in the immediate vicinity. So it didn't have a very long life. But this has been sitting here basically abandoned, disused since 1941. And as we probably will confirm from the outside, since this was part of the Lackawanna Cut-off, it is painted partially in eerie Lackawanna colors, which is like a maroon color and yellow. Now, in case you want to know about the Lackawanna Cut-off, and obviously you could do your own research to get more details, but the Cut-off was a rail line built by the D.L.&W. Delaware, Lackawanna and Western Railroad that was constructed around 1910 and it was part of a 396-mile main line between Hoboken, New Jersey and Buffalo, New York. And when it opened, it was considered a super railroad that was state-of-the-art. So that's why it is relatively famous, well-known, at least amongst the railroad community. And that is the same line now that they're talking about bringing back rail service with Amtrak from New York City to Scranton, Pennsylvania, which will be riding on a lot of the old Lackawanna Cut-off trackage. And in front of it, there is a drainage ditch, which probably wasn't there in the time. But we're going to try to get access around the other side of the building and see if there is a basement or not, and just give you some exterior views as well before we head to a possible second location. But absolutely love these structures. Clear on the other side now, and it's really overgrown, and I don't see any access to the basement. So I'm guessing this particular switching tower didn't have your traditional full walk-in basement. Definitely no access behind it. I don't believe it ever did. That's the only other thing that could be possible, is that this slope here that allowed us access to the back may not have always been like that. We did walk in on a trail, which is flat and level. Now, see, I'm thinking about it. The outhouse is right there. If that's the case, the outhouse would have been buried. So I think this landscape was always like this for the most part. No basement access behind it. Nothing on this side. And looking up there, you can see a lot of the tiles overhanging on the edge of the roof there. Standing in front of it now, here is a good look at the colors, which I believe are painted afterwards. I'd be shocked if this is the original paint, but I don't believe it is. But these are the EL, Erie Lackawanna colors. So it is nice that if these are painted afterwards, someone took the opportunity and liberty to paint this an appropriate color scheme. Now, traditionally, you would see the holes coming out for the linkages for the levers upstairs. But this material is built up here, which normally wouldn't be here unless, let me see if I could see how down low they are. There's a good chance they may come out down here. There is a little bit of a wall here. We'll confirm if they actually come out there. But this is not great standing ground though. Like usually you could just walk right out, but I'm kind of limited to this little slippery slope here. And this build out right here is the upstairs front window area that is extended out. So that's why it's built out like that. And you can see the concrete work. Really well done. No, I don't see the openings down here either. It looks like that the holes are buried under that material. Looks like they did trench this out to allow water to pass by. Piled some material up there and over here. So the holes are covered up right now, but traditionally would be coming out. And as you saw in the older outside photo, all the linkages and levers coming out, going in different directions. But again, the spur line would have been down there, a few hundred yards, curving off to the right. And that was its primary use, 1915 to 1941. Beginning my ascent back up the hill, definitely work out in the snow. Towers right there. So ideally, I would have liked to have gone on the other side of the tracks to get a nice wide angle shot, but being that maintenance away was down there, I didn't want to do that. They actually did see me though when I was in front of the building. They just gave a wave. As long as I'm not interfering with the active tracks, not really much of a concern. But knowing that they're there, no chance of a train coming by, which I was hoping for. But that is location number one of some old railroad history. I'm gonna climb back up, get to the vehicle, drive to a different area, not too far away. And if it's accessible and still there, then we definitely have a second item. So more to come. we're now near another sectional line and something in front of us here. Now this is not what I came to show you. This is not the second item, but something I did want to share with you because I did spot it on Google Earth. This was a site that was used up until a few years ago. As I show you the Google Earth images back in the 90s, obviously this was very much in active operation. Going into the early 2000s, still in active operation. And then coming to the mid 2000s, around 2011, 2014, this site was in the process of no longer being used or stopped being used. This appears to be a type of way station. There's like a floating deck there. And there is a, excuse me, little spur line that comes out right here, where on some of those older images, there was train cars sitting on them. And it's really, really windy up here. So the line dead ends right there. The main line is right there. Don't see any sheen on them. They may just use this as a holding site temporarily, but it's no longer an active operation, at least as far as this goes. The reason I wanted to show you this though is because on that same map images, just a short ways away, right up in that area, I believe there is something up there we could check out. Something that is definitely more related to railroad history. I'm going to find an easier way over there and we'll see what we can discover. And just a little bit more confirmation, found this is right there, Fairbanks scales. So I'm thinking, just for quick observation, that loaded, probably hopper cars came here, or gondola cars, and they would have been unloaded, probably by a conveyor system into awaiting trucks. And the trucks would probably get weighed and then hauled off. Either that, or vice versa, where loaded trucks came here and then unloaded the material into the waiting cars. Could go either way, but I think that's what we're looking at. It's an old transfer station, way station. After one heck of a steep climb up a snow-covered, leafy hill, finally reached our second target that I believe is related to the old railroad days. Now, coming upon this, I think I was here once before, many years ago with Alan and RJ. I think we were in the area, we filmed something else, and I do remember coming to something very similar to this, and it might actually be the same location, but I didn't make a video on it that I'm aware of. So first thing in front of us is an old camper trailer, which, if I can recall, was in better condition last time we were here, which was probably 6-7 years ago. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago. There's a roof there, and then we have this gargantuan tower. And the reason I'm thinking this may be related to the old railroad days, initially, I thought this was a water tower for trains. With how big this is, that may not be the case, but we'll investigate that. Let's check out this camper first, which looks like it's pretty vintage. I don't know much about these. If I was to guesstimate in a decade, I'd say the 70s. It says Prowler on it. Direct vent water heater, American Appliance Manufacturer Corporation, out of Santa Monica, California. Tires are severely dry rotted. Got the hubcaps on them. Outlet right there. Not the best color scheme. It's like white, orange, poop color, and mustard. It's actually just collapsed in on itself. The weight of snow and rotting wood. There's a look inside though. There's a bed up there towards the front. Sink and stove and oven right there. It's all paneling. It looks like 70s. Probably was nice when it was new. As to why it got parked here, haven't got a clue, because it's not really, ooh, that was slippery. Not a really easy location to get to with something like this, but obviously if it was here or brought here decades ago, probably would have been much different access or easier. I should be a hibernating bear or something, that's all I need. But thankfully I always have my protection on me just in case. That's just a collapsed little shed. But I think you could probably see how I did mistaken this as a water tower for trains based on the aerial overhead image. All I saw was the round top. And this thing is much larger than any water tower that's been around for filling the steam engines back in the day. See the rivets, the bolts, threads compared to my hand. It's not far from the rail line. That's the main line right there. And that loading, unloading transfer station that we checked out is down that direction. So this is not far from a rail line, although typically water towers for filling locomotives are closer. This one is big. If I was to guess a height, give me a second here to try to calculate. I'd say 50 to 60 feet tall. I mean, I can't even really give you a size comparison to this because I can't get the whole thing in camera, but I'll stand in front of it at least just to show you the circumference and the diameter compared to me. But it is a big one. There's a ladder on the outside, and I think I remember RJ wanting to climb it, and he was wearing his cowboy boots. And he was freaking me out. I'm like, don't do that. You slip and fall. I don't want to witness anything bad. This has A8843 on it. Sitting on a concrete base. I don't see any openings on the bottom. I'm guessing on the top is probably a hatch. And I don't even know if it's still used. It doesn't look like the area is maintained at all. So it leads me to believe that whatever its intended use is long gone. And I just noticed this on the ground here too. Something Well Supply Company, Huntley, Illinois. Looks like that's what it says. So I'm guessing that's some kind of connection for this. Oh, there's a pipe right here too. A couple pipes. One there, one right there. Ow, that hurt. Guessing there's an underground well source, which is probably the, or was the water supply feed for this. I'm still baffled how they got that up here. But I'm happy to say we found both targets, the train switching tower and that massive water tower right there. We know the train tower, definitely related to the railroad days. This, I'm not really sure. That's where your input's going to come into play. If you think, based on the relation to the tracks and the just the proximity of the area from everything else, and more importantly the size of it, if you think it was for the old railroad days, was it used for filling locomotives and maybe feeding a small town? Or was it maybe just a water source for a town? Or something completely else? I can't confirm or deny if that is railroad related. All I know is that it's near the railroad, near the areas that we were documenting today. I'm pretty happy with what we found. Hope you are as well. Would love to hear your thoughts on what you thought of today's video. And most importantly, I want to thank you so much for coming along for today's adventure. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.